For us, we look at what the immediate needs are. We have really gotten connected with our local police department, connecting with other individuals who have experienced similar things as you is really a huge part of that healing process, and knowing that you're not alone.
I'm done with my questions, Tracy. Welcome everybody to Lifeline's series, Better Know a Director. I'm here today with Tracy Bemis Smiley, who is a victim advocate with A Better Way Services in Muncie, Indiana. Thank you, Tracy, so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your experiences and the center there in Indiana. Let's go ahead and start and have you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are, how the center got involved with suicide prevention, and your kind of history with mental health and suicide prevention.
Well, I've been with the A Better Way agency for about 12 years now, and A Better Way is a domestic violence, sexual assault shelter for victims, and we also provide services to individuals that don't need sheltering. But we noticed that we were starting to serve a lot of people that were identifying with having thoughts of suicide. And we really wanted to be able to serve those individuals better. And not only did we have a local crisis line, but then our clients that we worked with as well. So that's how we kind of got connected with the Lifeline and with Living Works and SAMHSA, and just trying to get as much education as possible so that we can provide better services for the individuals that we work with. A Better Way is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 a year. We always have staff and volunteers in our shelter facility. Staff and volunteers do have pretty similar training. Staff get a little bit more intensive training because they do answer the crisis hotline as well as the Living Works line. We have a lot of individuals that are students from Ball State, which is the local university, Ivy Tech Community College, that come in to get experience with social work, with advocacy, with human services. We have, as far as staffing, we have 2 counselors on staff. One does general domestic violence and the other is for sexual assault. They've both been trained in suicide prevention and intervention. Our full-time and part-time staff is kind of a variety of individuals with different backgrounds. But in general, everybody just wants to help somebody who is vulnerable, who needs a little extra support, maybe doesn't even have that support to start with. And we want to be able to bring peace to them, peace to our community, and inspire individuals to do the same. The
services provided there seem very interesting in that obviously one population, the domestic violence and abuse and assault population, seems relatively at high risk for things like thoughts of suicide or other sorts of mental illnesses or mental health issues. What does that look like when trying to transition from one form of care, one form of service to another? How does that kind of work in that center?
For us, we look at what the immediate needs are. So whatever's going on at that time, we want to focus on. We will have individuals that will reach out to us because they're being abused or they've been assaulted. And as they process through it, they then might start having thoughts of suicide because they are at higher risk. And that is something that we can watch out for red flags. We can really talk to them about, validate their feelings, and focus then on the suicide thoughts while we continue the healing process with the domestic violence and sexual assault. It's pretty natural in that everybody just kind of is trained in that direction, always thinking about what trauma an individual has experienced, and then not to be scared to associate it with having thoughts of suicide. So making sure and connect all those together.
So the center has been around for how long? For 40 years?
Almost 40 years, yes. And we started with just a couple of ladies that were working out of their home trying to help individuals that were being abused. Then they eventually moved to having a room at the local YWCA for a small amount of people. Then they grew several years later to having 2 houses. One house was a shelter for the victims of domestic violence, and one was the offices for the staff. And since we've just continued to grow, just getting the word out there, people recognizing domestic violence, the service is so much more needed in the community, and we've moved to a larger facility that we've been here for about 20 years. We can house up to 26 victims at any time. Connecting with other individuals who have experienced similar things as you is really a huge part of that healing process, and knowing that you're not alone. So we really have great support groups that we've been running in our facility for a number of years.
Having those kinds of comprehensive services, being around for so long, expanding services, expanding capacity, it sounds like there's a lot of really good and positive and beneficial things happening, not just for the center, but for the community. What are some of the biggest successes that kind of stand out to you in terms of what the center and what you've been able to accomplish?
We have really gotten connected with our local police department. They become very open when we call and when we are in need of emergency assistance, whether it's for an abusive partner who has located their partner who's in our shelter, or we just have suspicious people hanging around our building, or we need someone who's on the suicide hotline and we need them to go out and do an intervention. They are very open. They're one of our biggest advocates in the community, and we really, they call us a lot for different programming. It's really neat how we have gotten connected with the Lifeline and the Backup Center, in that we had an individual come into our facility due to domestic violence, and they relocated out of state to stay with family, but that family, it turned out, was kind of abusive to them, and they reconnected with our facility by calling the suicide hotline.
How does collaboration with the Lifeline benefit your center? And you just mentioned one way. Are there other ways that you get benefits out of collaboration with the Lifeline?
Yeah, the Lifeline has just been a savior of resources for us. We get lots of resources for our callers, for our community. Their emails that they send out with the research that helps us kind of, benefit and learn about the new research that's happening with suicide and the different populations. It's just been a whirlwind of education and information for us as staff, but also for us to be able to give to the individuals that we work with. Great.
Well, I'm glad to hear that we're helping, that you find that relationship beneficial, because we certainly value everything that you all do to help the network too. So we talked a little bit about some of the great things that the center does that you've been involved with, and some of the services, and some of the successes, like the relationships that you formed in the community, especially with the police department. Are there any challenges that you've experienced over the years, and can you tell us a little bit about how you got through those? What are some solutions that brought you to the other side of those?
One of the biggest challenges that we have right now is not enough funding to work with suicide prevention and intervention. Having additional funding would be able to hire staff more staff to be able to help out so that there's a lower rates of burnout, the appropriate trainings that are necessary, having individuals that can just centralize on the suicide intervention and prevention would make it so much easier. I think not just for our agency, but for most agencies that, you know, serve this population, you want to be able to give the best services available. We've just been really fortunate that we are in a university community, and we have some great students that volunteer their time, come in to do practicums and work study and internships, and they do really well on the phones, and they're gung-ho about helping individuals that are calling in. It's unfortunate though that once they finally get into the groove of it, then they're graduating and moving on, and we have to start all over from scratch. But we do enjoy having them here, and we appreciate everything that they have done to help us out.
What would you say is one thing that makes your center unique?
I think because we have so many different programs in our facility. Not only do we do the domestic violence and sexual assault, we also run after-school programs for at-risk youth. We have a call-in center for elderly and shut-ins that we call and check up on them on a regular basis, making sure that they're doing okay throughout the week. We also do prevention presentations out in the community on bullying, teen dating violence, domestic violence. We have so many issues that we cover, but they kind of all cross a path. And it's all about having peace, not just with yourself, but with others. Just trying to help individuals that may not have that support that they need. The vulnerable ones, the ones that are quiet, the ones that are going to get maybe, you know, lost in the crowd, that just need a little extra support. And our motto is err on the side of generosity. So that's what we do on a daily basis. It does kind of connect all with the Lifeline and with domestic violence. One of my coworkers took a call from an individual that was calling in, and she was having thoughts of suicide. She was in an abusive relationship, didn't realize that what she was experiencing was not normal, that it was unhealthy, that there were places out there to help her. And by the time she finished talking with my coworker, she understood what she was in was not a good household. She did call back the next day to say that she had maintained contact with the shelter, and she was moving forward, and she was so glad that she called because she didn't realize what she was in was abusive. And she just was thinking it was the end of her life. So we were really thankful that she called in, and again, just so happens being connected with a domestic violence shelter that we were able to provide that education to her as well. It was really kind of, you could see the light bulb from wherever she was go off, and was just thankful that she had called in because she didn't think she was going to be able to do it anymore. So that was a really neat experience.